In today's Leeds news, Aaron's linked, Maynard Sullivan update, Ljubicic deal not dead yet, and Wober's future. Hi folks, Ger here on Monday morning the 26th of August. Hope your bank holiday weekend in the UK is going fine. Sorry about the late news today. I was in the UK for AW's All In over the weekend, so I only got back today. So fantastic weekend, but there's a bit of news floating around. There's a lot of stuff to get into. There's a lot of kind of clarification on stories. I think this week is going to be a lot of noise. There could be some very big movement from Leeds very, very soon. And by the time you watch this, some of the stories I'm about to tell you about may already have been finalised. But we'll start off and we'll get into it, and we'll cover off the Max Aarons rumour that has been circulating for a bit now. It's now starting picked up with more credible sources, so we're going to cover it in a bit more detail. But according to the YEP, they believe that Max Aarons is one of the players who could likely turn up at Leeds this week. There are rumours of a multiple player signing announcement happening, but right now it's not being confirmed. And Aarons would represent serious competition for Leeds in the fullback areas. Daniel Farke had tried to sign Aarons last season, and Leeds had gone as far as to confirm a medical for the player before he then decided to push for Premier League football and signed for Bournemouth instead. But a couple of injuries early on the season meant he found himself playing second fiddle to Adam Smith, who became a very tough player for him to push out of that team. Now it appears that Leeds will try one more time to try and bring in a player that Daniel Farke has worked with at Norwich and is a big fan of, and would have been his first choice fullback last season could he have got him. And Donny Iraola was speaking about the player early last week, and he said that the player himself is very happy at the club and is happy to compete for his place, but did point out the fact that he's got a bit of a task ahead of him getting in against Adam Smith. It should be said, Adam Smith was the second choice right back at the weekend, and Max Aarons didn't feature in Bournemouth's matchday squad at all. So a likely move on the cards, whether it's Leeds or somebody else. Aarons is likely now to move, in the Yorkshire Evening Post said that he is one of the players that Leeds would like to bring in this week in what is likely to be an incredibly busy week, or at least a busy start of the week in terms of purchases for Leeds United. There's a lot of rumour going around. There's a lot of flight tracking happening. There's players coming in from Paris and Bournemouth and everywhere coming into Leeds right now. Billing's been mentioned. Cabal has been mentioned. Aarons has been mentioned. There's a lot of noise floating around right now, so you would imagine they're very, very busy in some form of a tactics bunker somewhere, trying to trash out who they need to bring in the next couple of days. But a player that was likely to have come in by now and hasn't just yet is Maynard Sullivan, and we expected this deal to have been completed over the course of the weekend. There are a lot of factors as to why this deal probably hasn't got done just yet. The bank holiday being an issue, obviously, in the UK is one of the things. But according to the YEP, they claim that their sources at the club have told them that despite this taking longer than it should, the deal is still progressing fine and it still remains possible. There were some rumours floating around over the course of the weekend that there may have been some issues on the Leeds end with the medical. That's not been confirmed, and please don't take that as gospel. It's absolutely not confirmed. But it was a rumour floating around at the time, and it also said there was renegotiations happening from Leeds' side around the player as well. Now, other reports have come out from the YP, and they suggest that there's a deal done between the player and Leeds. There's no issue there. The agreement is currently between Leeds and Spurs that is taking longer than was expected. The structure of the deal likely to be what is causing the stumbling blocks at the moment. Solomon, according to the Yorkshire Evening Post and their lead sources, is also seen as a potential number 10 spot for Leeds United, and where Ramazani will operate off the wing, and he will have that number 10 spot in the centre should he come in. But as I said, there is a triple announcement rumoured to be floating around the ether right now, but not confirmed, but we'll wait and see what happens. A deal that we did assume was off the table based on news coming from Germany last week was Dejan Ljubicic, after reports late last week suggested that Leeds had pulled out of a deal to sign the FC Cologne midfielder, who has scored twice this weekend after being reintegrated back into his squad after missing the previous week's game. But I did say last week, at the end of the week, don't be surprised if this one pops back up before the window closed, that Leeds could move again late. But now, according to some reports coming out of Germany, they suggest that is a very, very likely to now happen. Rheinstich Post say that a move for the player is not completely off the table, and it remains to be seen if Ljubicic will still be a player at FC Cologne come Friday. The report also claims that Leeds are said to be preparing a lucrative bid for the player in order to get the deal done and bring him to Elland Road. Bild last week said that this move was off the table, that Leeds were pulling out, but now Bild themselves have doubled back on that. And what they've said is that they believe the player will leave if there is a good offer that comes in for him, and it's very likely he won't be an FC Cologne player by the end of this week. That's one that could be a big one for Leeds to get in if they could get in at number 8 position. 2 goals at the weekend for Cologne. He started the season very well. I think he's got 3 goals already this season from midfield, which is a fantastic start, but it's everything else he brings as well. So yeah, that's the one to keep an eye on there. I am looking over here, by the way, because there's news expected, so I'm just going to keep an eye out so I don't miss anything in case it does pop up. But we'll move on to the potential exit that we're likely to see coming into the end of the weekend. I think there's probably only realistically 2 main players that Leeds fans and everyone is looking at, seeing will they be here on Friday or not. That's Willy Gnonto and Max Verber. And the Max Verber is the one to talk about. After all of the talk around Max Verber, it still appears that there may be a chance that the Leeds United centre-back will leave Leeds United before the end of the week. Late last week, reports came out from Gladbach's side that the club are preparing a loan offer for the player from Leeds United. But that was rumour and not necessarily confirmed. And it also said in that report that the club hadn't actually made contact with Leeds just yet. So what kind of an offer you're putting in if you haven't actually spoken to the club yet remains to be seen. And you're not supposed to negotiate with a player until the club has approved you negotiating with a player. But it appears that Gladbach aren't playing by the rules when it comes to this player. Reports in Germany from journalist Marlon Erlbacher claim that a loan move could be possible and may even suit both sides of the fence. Apparently, a loan could work for both sides, but you really feel from a Leeds perspective that this is very much a getting a distraction out of the way and not actually benefiting the club in any way. A loan does nothing to help Leeds United's situation with the players that were on loan last season away from the club, and with the potential of Max Verber being another one that goes again this year on a loan exit. It doesn't do a whole lot for Leeds, again, outside of removing a distraction from what's going on. We know that Gladbach don't have enough money to pay the option to buy the player. They had it last year and they didn't take up that option, but they want him on loan. Again, kind of what Roma did with Diego Llorente, and we know there's no point in putting an obligation in it because the obligation won't be paid. They haven't got the money to do it, so unlikely that gets paid. So the only thing for me in a Max Verber exit over to Germany in this situation would be the fact that Leeds are just fed up with the situation, want the player out of the way. That's assuming he goes at all. A lot of this, and it should be said, a lot of this could just be very much noise being made from Gladbach's end, with very little involvement from Verber, and Leeds not at all involved in this apparently just yet. But it is a name that is going to keep popping up between now and till the end of the week. Same with Willy Gnonto. Possible question marks around Joe Gelhardt. Should Leeds bring in another attacking player? We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But it is the beginning of already what is looking like being a very, very busy week, and what could be a very busy evening if things do pick up later on today and there is a triple announced signing. I will jump on later on for a quick live stream just to bring you the details on that, and then we'll cover the finer detail of that tomorrow morning in the daily news, and you can check that out on the channel if you want to tomorrow. So plenty of stuff coming up. We will do a match day preview and review, so review from last week's game and a preview for next week's game tomorrow night with Jerry McNamee. I'm trying to get stats on as well if we can and get that one done earlier in the week. We got the podcast on Thursday, and we'll do some form of a again, and look forward to the match on Friday as well. So we'll check all that stuff out as the week goes on. There's going to be a lot. We've also got our deadline day stream, which will be an hour, the last hour of the transfer window. It'll be bringing the old group back together. Myself, Michael Leeds Faithful on Twitter, and Alex from the American Elites podcast, hopefully joining me for that stream later in the week. But we'll have to wait and see how this week goes first before we get to that stage. It could be a very quiet deadline day should Leeds get the 3 or 4 players in before that they need, and we'll have to wait and see how we get on. Folks, have a fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy your bank holiday from the UK. I'll be back possibly later on, definitely in the morning, for more Leeds news. Talk to you then. See ya.